Have you ever been hurt by someone and instead of saying anything, you just started pulling away little by little? Or maybe you've been on the other side of it, feeling someone slowly become more distant, without arguing, without asking for anything, without ever explaining why. It's not that she's moody or difficult. This is actually one of the most common and most misunderstood behaviors that can happen when someone is genuinely hurt. Today, I'm going to show you why this happens, what's going through someone's mind when they start pulling away, and what that distance may actually be trying to hide or communicate. When someone is deeply hurt, we tend to expect drama. We expect tears. We expect confrontation. What we don't expect is silence. We don't expect someone to still be sitting at the dinner table, around the same people, sleeping in the same bed, and somehow no longer be completely there. So the question becomes, why do so many people choose to disappear when they're hurting instead of simply talking about it? Start by noticing the small details. She used to send the first message of the day. Now she waits, almost as if she's measuring how long it takes someone to notice that something has changed. She stops sharing the little things, the song that's been stuck in her head, something funny she saw on the way home, a random picture of nothing important, not because she no longer wants to share them. Sharing would mean getting close again. And being too close in that moment feels dangerous. She opens an old conversation, types something, deletes it, then puts her phone back down. Hours later, when she's alone, she's still replaying the entire argument in her head, finally coming up with the perfect response to every single thing he said. 2 hours too late, maybe, but perfect. From the outside, people already have a label for this: cold, distant, complicated. They start creating their own explanation. She's over it, she doesn't trust anyone, and almost nobody stops to ask what actually happened. They simply react to the distance that's left behind. But maybe the better question isn't, why did she disappear? Maybe it's, what was she trying to avoid by disappearing? And this is where things start getting more interesting. There's a term for this in psychology: emotional granularity. It refers to how accurately someone can identify what they're feeling. Not just, I feel bad, but this isn't anger, it's shame. The more precisely a person can name the emotion, the easier it usually becomes to understand and deal with it. The problem is, in the heat of the moment, that kind of clarity is often nowhere to be found. In the moment, all someone may feel is tightness in their chest, their face getting warm, and an overwhelming urge to get out of there. It's only later, when they're alone, that they can begin separating what they actually felt. Disappointment, embarrassment, the feeling of being replaced by something or someone more important. And there's another thing making all of this harder. Emotionally intense arguments consume the same attention we need in order to listen, think, and respond clearly. It's not that the brain literally shuts down. It's that when emotion is taking up too much space, thinking clearly becomes much harder. That's why the perfect response often shows up 2 hours later, alone, away from the pressure of the conversation. But even that doesn't explain everything, because staying quiet in the moment is one thing. Staying quiet for days afterward is something completely different. And that's where the deeper reason comes in, the part people almost never say out loud. There's often a fear of being hurt a second time. The first wound is what happened. The second would be explaining why it hurt, only to have that pain dismissed. You're overreacting. It was just a joke. Here we go again. Sometimes, just imagining hearing those words is enough to make silence feel like the safer option. And not everyone reaches this point in the same way. For some people, it starts in childhood, when expressing hurt simply never worked. They tried to say that something bothered them, they were told they were being dramatic or too sensitive, and slowly, without even realizing it, they learned that keeping things inside felt safer than speaking. For others, it develops much later, inside one specific relationship. Maybe they eventually realized that opening up only led to quick apologies, excuses, or promises, while nothing actually changed. And then there are people who pull away because distance gives them a sense of control. The hurt already happened. The other person already did what they did, and that part can't be changed anymore. But how quickly she replies, how available she makes herself, how much of herself she continues giving, those things can still be decided. Pulling back becomes the only variable she still has control over. And then there are people who pull away because they're embarrassed by their own reaction. It's not even the other person that bothers them the most. It's realizing just how deeply it affected them. Why did this get to me so much? In that case, hiding the pain is also a way of hiding from herself just how much that person still matters. And here's the most counterintuitive part of all. The more someone cares about a relationship, the more likely they may be to pull away when they're hurt, not less. Because when a relationship doesn't mean that much, the pain usually doesn't carry enough weight to trigger this kind of reaction. It's precisely when someone has the power to hurt you that distance can start to feel necessary. So pulling away isn't always the absence of caring. Sometimes it's what remains when caring no longer knows where it's safe to land. And this is where the painful paradox begins. Behind that distance, there's often a conflict, the desire to be noticed without having to ask for it. If I have to explain it, then it won't mean anything. If you really cared, you would have noticed on your own. Inside her mind, those thoughts can make complete sense, while also making it almost impossible for anyone on the outside to understand what's happening. Because people can't read intentions from a distance. They react to what they can see, and what they see is coldness. Sometimes it even becomes a test that nobody ever says out loud. I'm going to stop texting first. Let's see if he notices. Her absence becomes a question in disguise. Does he notice when I'm gone? The problem is, the other person almost never recognizes it as a test. They read it as disinterest. And that's how two people who genuinely miss each other can stay completely still, each one waiting for the other person to make the first move. There is relief in pulling away, of course. The body relaxes. The pressure of the conversation disappears. Nobody has to explain anything. But that relief comes at a cost, because it teaches the mind that every time something hurts, disappearing is the right response. And over time, that rule can become automatic. It stops feeling like a choice. It becomes a reflex. So, in the end, what are we really talking about when we talk about the psychology of someone who pulls away when they're hurt? We're talking about an attempt to survive something they still don't have the words for. A way of protecting whatever dignity they have left when trying harder feels like it would only make things worse. But protection and healing are not the same thing. Distance can protect a wound from being touched again, but it can also prevent someone from ever getting close enough to understand that wound and maybe help repair what happened. There's a difference between asking for time and allowing distance to tell the entire story on its own. The first one still leaves a door open. The second leaves the other person standing in front of a wall, not knowing whether they should knock, wait, or simply give up. Nobody has to solve everything in the exact moment they're hurt. But sometimes, one simple sentence can change everything. This hurt me, and right now, I don't really know how to explain it. I need some time, but I don't want my silence to speak for me. Because the real question isn't whether this person cares. It's whether, the next time something hurts, she'll allow someone to get close enough to understand what's happening, or whether she'll let distance, once again, tell the wrong version of the story. Are you like this, or do you know someone who is? Do you think what we talked about today makes sense? I'd really like to hear your perspective. And if you find this kind of content meaningful, consider subscribing to the channel so you can keep understanding yourself, your emotions, and the way your mind works a little better each time. See you in the next one.